All right, let's get started. So those of you that don't know me, I'm Mandeep Singh, CEO and founder of Mandeeps.com. And today we're doing a webinar on building an app with Live Visualizer. So let's go through this. Use chat to ask any questions as I'm presenting. I'll be happy to answer your questions as we go along. Time permitting, we will go ahead and open this session up towards the end for live Q&A, so you can chat back and forth using voice. But for during the presentation, please just use chat if you have any questions. We have a lot to cover today, so I'm going to go at a little bit fast pace. If you need me to repeat something or something's not clear, please interrupt and let me know through chat, and we'll go ahead and address that. So what we'll do today, we're trying to build a Yelp-like app with Live Visualizer. What we will cover today in this webinar is the data architecture and permissions, and that is at the data layer. We will look at the templates and presentation. So how do we actually take that data and present it to the end user? We'll talk about content management. How do we add, edit, remove, update data, and so forth? How does users do it? We'll talk about SEO. We'll talk about in-place context editing versus a centralized content library editing approach. We'll look at relationships and references between data. We will also look at how users can do search and filtering. So we're trying to do all that in less than an hour. So let's get to it. All right. What I'm going to do is really quickly show you that we are working with our app builder today, and that is also known as our Live Visualizer product. So towards the end of the presentation, I do have a promotion code available to you for those who have not purchased and would like to purchase. So if I forget, please remind me. I'll be able to share that with you guys. But here's the product that we're looking at today, and we're going to dive right into it and start using it. Now, before I do that, yes, let's look at Yelp. Let's look at what Yelp is, right? So Yelp is a local business search, review, and rating directory, and they're also started doing food delivery. But basically, you can search for local businesses. You can filter by business types like restaurants and plumbers and painters and so forth. And if you look at this page, I can see hot and new businesses. I can see recent activity by end users and so forth. So just to get our expectations straight, Yelp is a $1 billion company, right? It's a public company with total assets over $1 billion, almost close to $1 billion revenue. So by no means we're trying to duplicate that here in 45 minutes. I'm just using Yelp as an example to show how powerful Live Visualizer is and how it can do heavy lifting for us and take us 90% of our way to an app. Towards the end of this presentation, I will also talk what it takes to go to the last 10% of it. All right, having said that, let's dive deeper in here. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to a default blank installation of DNN 9.10.1. This is the latest version of DNN 9.10.1. And like you said, it's a blank installation just with a home page there. All I've done is created a new page called Webinar, and I've already installed Live Visualizer on the site to save time. I'm just going to add it to a page. All right, so there's our Live Visualizer Manager. I'm going to head over to Manage, and we're going to get started here. So the very first thing we want to do is create a data layer, right? We need to have data to be able to do any presentation or work around it. So that is managed in structures. So we're going to go down here to structure and create a new structure. So I'm going to go ahead and click on new content structure. I'm just going to call this a business. Because I see in Yelp, there's different kind of businesses, there's restaurants and so forth. So I'm going to go ahead and call this business. The very first thing Live Visualizer asks us, is permissions. So permissions are actually at the data layer, not at the presentation layer. So you cannot accidentally give access to the data to somebody that you never intended, because that is the core. It goes at the data layer. So by default, admins can do everything with the data, and then all users can view this data, which is fine in our case because we want these listings and reviews and ratings or the businesses to be visible to people who are not even logged into the site. Well, let's add another permission. I want registered users to be able to add their businesses, update their listings, and maybe even delete. I'm not going to check that for now, but they can go ahead and do that. And as you can see, we can go ahead and add this for as many roles as we need. We also have permissions at the structure level itself. So who can change the data structure itself? Now, by default, that's admin, but if you have a large enterprise and you have a dedicated team that's working on it, then you can give them permissions to do that as well. Let's go back here to the content itself. Now, this is saying any registered user can, we the businesses add and update. That means if I'm logged in as a user, I could go ahead and update somebody else's business. So that's obviously no good in our use case here. So what we want to do is go to other permissions, and we want to allow only the owner to update content or delete content. All right, so this means only the person who owns that data, who created it, is able to manage it. All right, now that we've set the permissions up, we can actually model the data. So I'm going to try and keep this brief. Those who are familiar with live forms, this is entire live forms functionality with all the bells and whistles and all the condition logic and branching and all that. So let's go ahead and do a simple one. I'm going to go ahead and grab a heading. I'm going to call it business information. Let's get the name of the business. Let's get a category, and this could be things like, are you a restaurant, or are you a mover? Are you a painter? Are you a plumber? So let's keep an alphabetical order. So I'll just move this down here. And then I could have default values like select a category. And I can have placeholders and so forth, but let's continue here. I want these fields required, so I'm going to just mark required attribute on them really quick. So these are required fields. And let's add another drop down here. I'm just going to call this one cuisine. And this is the one that I want to show when somebody is actually doing a restaurant, right? So let's call this like American, Chinese, and pizza, and so forth. So, and again, same thing. I could say select a cuisine. We've got some questions coming in here. What if you add or delete a category later? You could always add or delete and modify your data structure without impacting your existing content. Obviously, if you were to delete a category or delete a data, then if you delete just an option of a category, that shouldn't impact much. Everything should work fine. But if you were to get rid of the category altogether, then that's going to be an issue, because if you have templates and presentation that are using it, we'll no longer see that category. But you can always add and modify things as needed. Absolutely. All right, so I got a name, a category, a cuisine. Let's get some photos in there. So I'm just going to get a file upload. I'm just going to call it maybe a logo for the business, and have this required. We'll have it auto upload. And I think that's good enough just to kind of get started and demonstrate this. So what I want to do is, I don't want the cuisine to be visible to plumbers and painters, right? There is really no need for them to answer that if they're not a restaurant. So let's go to options. And again, this is all live forms. I'm just showing some of the basic things we can do. We can say, show the cuisine field only if category is equal to a restaurant. You got to give this a name. So I'm just going to call it show cuisine. If I can spell that correctly. There we go. And add action. All right. So let's close out of this. Let's close out of this. We see our first structure created already called business. I'm going to switch to content library really quick to show I can quickly add a business from here. And I'm going to type in KFC. Notice I don't see cuisine yet. If I were to choose mover, I don't see it. But if I were to choose restaurant, I see the cuisine. And then I can say, okay, this is American, and I can upload. And let's see if you can find some images. I have a KFC image right there. Hit submit. All right, so I've added my first business in through via content library. Let's take a look at this right here. You see it says KFC on the top and then it says restaurant here, and that's kind of auto-generated. In the structure here, I have the ability to define how do I want my data presented in content library, or what is the title and description of the structure. If you don't choose one, it kind of auto-generates. I'm going to say title is the name, which is fine, but I don't want it to say, I actually want to maybe see the fact that it's a restaurant. So I can go ahead and choose this to category. And if I switch over, it's going to say KFC restaurant, which is fine. But just to demonstrate, if this was something else, I can choose it to cuisine. Now it's saying KFC is an American cuisine and so forth. So I have some granular control there as well. All right. What I'm going to do is switch over to another DNN instance where I've done the same exact thing, but the only difference is I went ahead and added a bunch of restaurants already and a bunch of businesses to save time. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to switch over to this new one right here. Go to manage. And again, the only thing that is different from what we were doing, there's no visualizers. There's just that one structure we created. Is I added, and I went ahead and added about 25 rows. So question, how did I add them? For this demo, I was just adding them in manually. I'm not sure if we have import feature. I do know we have export, but that's a question I'm going to have to address. I do know there's export, but I manually added these in. I wanted to add different kinds of restaurants, plumbers, painters, so I just kind of added all that in. Just through content library. We're going to look at the fact how this user adds up and so forth. But now that I have this data already here, I'll just look at the structure really quick, make sure I didn't do anything different. Yeah, just name, category, cuisine, and logo. So, all right, let's go ahead and talk about briefly, and I'm going to come back to content more. I'm going to go back and forth just to kind of make sure that we have complete understanding of what's going on. I'm going to go ahead and create a visualizer. A visualizer is nothing but a way to present your data to the end user. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new visualizer. I'm just going to call this all businesses, which means I'm showing a list of all businesses in this visualizer. So I choose a structure, in my case, business, the only one created, and I'm going to hit update. Now, we'll look at all the settings in detail, but for right now, what I'm going to do is auto-generate my template. I'm going to say table view, hit OK, hit update. And this is the visualizer that's got created. It's active, so it should be visible on the page behind the scenes, and there it is. So I already have a table of all the content that's there. Now, out of the box, I do have what is known as in place or in context editing. And this is all permission driven and aware. So only the user who's logged in gets to see these actions and be able to take action on them. So if I want to edit any one of these, I can simply do it here, which is in place or in context editing. I can delete it from here too. Also notice we got this nice server-side paging, so we can scale to millions of records without any performance issues. So that's pretty cool. Now let's go ahead and go back. So in comparison with in-context editing, I always have content library. So as a admin, I can always go here and edit content too. And that's the case like a customer service rep or somebody who would go in, edit. So I could have just edited from here as well. We'll touch back on content library again momentarily. Let's go back to visualizer. Let's edit this one and let's auto-generate a list for you. So I'm going to go ahead and update and return back. So now it created a list view for me. And notice it automatically did some image plumbing for us. So it's showing me an image of the restaurant, the title, and their category. Then, of course, we have full control of what we want to show. This is just an auto-generated template to get us started. And again, same thing, we have all our paging and so forth. Okay, so we have one more template, and that's Cardview. So let's go there. We'll use that to continue our demo. And there's a Cardview template. Now, notice how it stops at 10 and it would be nicer if I'd fill all these boxes in. So this is where we can explore templates option, visualizer option. So let's go back in and go ahead and click on content filtering and sorting. And in the settings here, I have the page size. I'm going to change that to 12. And again, we'll revisit and look at all the properties in detail, but now it's nice and complete. Okay, so let's go back, and I'm going to open another tab here so we can quickly look back and forth. Let's go back here and look at, let's say, KFC as an example. And if you notice here, we gotta find KFC, it might be the last one or somewhere around there. Okay, if I click on it, it has its own page, right? That's the detailed page. Notice it has its own URL as well. And we will look at the presentation of how these pages are driven. But what if I wanted to change the URL, right? I want to just spend a few minutes here understanding SEO, and that is all built in as well. I can define the meta title, I can define its description, I can get to define the URL itself, the actual slug. So if I want to call it something else, I could. You can always change the URL at any time. It automatically does a 301 redirect in the back, and you don't lose your SEO indexing. So great stuff. And again, I'm going through really quickly, so we cover everything. So SEO and content library and content management is kind of built here. Now, as an admin, you may want to slice and dice this content in many different ways. For example, right now it's sorting by the newest. You can sort it by the oldest and see things that way. I'm looking at everything. You may want to look at business. Right now, we only have one structure. I'm going to be adding more here in the demo. And we'll see how powerful this becomes, because maybe I just wanted to look at the reviews. Maybe I just wanted to look something else, not just the businesses. But you can filter. You can look at by authors too. Right now, I'm just logged in as a super user, but I can go ahead and filter by a specific user. I can use all these in combination as well, by the way. So it's not one or other. I can filter between a date range. And if you go down to a particular business, you can even go down to the status of that particular data record. And that's good for workflow, whether that request is approved, it's pending, and so forth. So you have statuses that are built in. And these statuses can be defined at your data level down here. You can create as many statuses as you want for that data record. So a lot of powerful functionality there. And I'm glimpsing through it really quick, just so we understand. You can always search for things right here, get to my data directly. So that's that. Now, this is, again, admin view, right? Everything, this is admin view. And again, I can add a business really quick from here. So this is what we call our content library. Everything is at your disposal from a centralized location. But a question came in, for the picture, can you have alt text? Absolutely. So your structure is totally your own definition. What I could do is use the name as the alt tag, right? In this case, I don't want to have my end users really know what alt is, right? They're just business owners and they don't care. So I could have just used the name as the alt tag. And I'll be happy to show an example of how to do that here in a minute. All right. So let's go ahead, and we looked at content library, how as an admin I can manage content, but let's look at how as a user I can manage content. So let's jump back to our page. We have this visualizer that was auto-generated for us. So one of the things on the top is an add button. And as a user, I can use that to add business. And of course, this is auto-generated, so you're welcome to change it to add your business or to create your new listing or something. And then it brings the form up for you. And again, that button will only be visible to those you give permission. So there's another question here. Does this work in Manjaro? Yeah, Live Visualizer, Live Forms, they all work in Manjaro, including the latest version. So no problems there. So I can go ahead and quickly add a business here. I'm just going to call it test because I lack of anything better, and just give it one, hit submit. And then you can quickly see without any page refresh, the business was quickly added in instantly. So, and similarly, I can go ahead and edit it from here, or I can go ahead and delete it from, just going to get rid of this for now. So that's how a user would go ahead and add content in. All right, let's look at in detail what this visualizer is doing for us. Let's go into manage. Let's go to edit, and let's go to editors. And there's 3 different templates. We're going to skip pagination. That is nothing but the page lengths 1, 2, 3 that at the bottom. If you want to style and change that, you have full control over that. But let's look at the master template. And this is the template that is basically generating this view for us right now. I'm going to scroll back. I can use F11 to go in full screen. And then there's some shortcuts that I will explain. So let's go to full screen first so I can quickly look at it. And this is an auto-generated template, right? So I didn't have to do anything. It was completely auto-generated for me. It's a great learning tool, so I can quickly look at it and make edits as I need to. For example, if I look right here, there's a div that starts, right? And then we have something called if search is enabled, which we will look in a momentarily, then it shows a text box for searching. And then it says if businesses can add, this is a permission check, then we show them an add button. Now let's add, I wanted to call it add new, which by the way, this is localized for different languages, but I wanted to call this create new listing. All right, so we can quickly change it there. And then what it'd be doing for each business that we have in our model, we're basically creating a 25-person column. We're creating our own card. These are built-in classes for Live Visualizer. So we're not using Bootstrap here because we didn't want an entire dependency just for one module. So we're lightweight classes. But if your skin, if your theme's already using Bootstrap, you simply swap these out to your own classes, to your own markup, and you're golden. So what's important to notice here is if you look right here, I have something called if model.enable search. So how do I get this option? If I do control space, it brings all the available options to me. So can somebody add, can somebody delete, can somebody update, and so forth. So all these options appear. And this is what we're using here to build that. Then what we're doing is a for each, again, on all the businesses, and we're injecting, and all we're doing is showing an image right here. And then we got a business name underneath, and we got a category underneath. Now, all the properties I can get to by simply doing a shift space, and I can see all the properties that are available to me, like the category, the cuisine, the IP address of the user who actually updated it last, the logo, the meta title, this is SEO stuff, the description, there's moderator ID stuff, again, that's workflow, and there's a lot of other metadata, but it's all there. So auto-generate template basically kind of gives us this template, scaffolding for us. So it's super easy to go ahead and get started. And as you can see, that edit link is down here. The delete link is down here. Just for comparison, that's these two right here. So super easy to go ahead and do that. All right, I just changed this add to create new listing. So I'm just going to go ahead update there. So to answer a question that was earlier asked, how would you use alt? There's an image tag, and notice we're not using alt, but I can just as easily add an alt here, and then go ahead and give it a, say the name, the business name, drops as one of the properties. All right, I'm not going to actually do that. I'm just canceling out of it, but that's the master template. The detail template is, again, I'm going to go F11 here, is the template when you click on it and what you see here. So towards the end of this presentation, I'm going to actually change these templates so they look nicer and pretty. For right now, I'm going to go ahead and continue with our presentation here to kind of introduce some more features, and we'll go from here. All right, so let's back out of here as well and cancel out of here. I have another question. What would it, I would like to have masonry instead of default card view. How would you take that on? So again, super easy. Entire presentation is in your control. These templates decides the HTML markup. So you have full control over that. And then you can add your own style sheets or write your inline style, write your own scripts. You can go ahead and do that too. And towards the end, I'm going to go ahead and, like I said, make this pretty, and we'll cover this a little bit more. All right. What else do we want to do? So if you look at Yelp, the core business is search, right? Search and be able to filter. Right now, all I've got is content and it's laid out. So, that's great, but it's not going to get me there. So let's explore some of the other options I have within the visualizer. So far, we were editing and looking at the editors, but let's look at the settings. So we have instance settings. That is an advanced concept. We have a separate video out there on that. I'm going to skip that. What I'm going to cover today is search. It's one of the new features. So it's client-side search. If you want to allow search, simply say yes. And then you get to choose which fields are searchable. Well, I want people to search by the business name. They should be able to search for just by restaurant or plumber. So yeah, we can do category. They should be able to search by the cuisine too. So yeah, let's do that as well. And let's also talk about cache. So performance is super important. We have clients who are using Live Visualizer on very, very, very heavy traffic sites and with tons of data. So a lot of work has gone into performance. So one of the things that happens is your data in the visualizer gets cached, and you can specify here at what level, user level or site level. For example, in this particular visualizer, we're not doing anything differently based on who's logged in. So we don't need to do it per user. We can do it at the site level. So we'll leave it there. I'm going to hit update. And one of the things that I'm going to get here is, I'm going to switch here so it's easier to not go back and forth, is a search box now. So I can quickly go ahead and look for KFC, and it's right there. And this is user search. Similarly, I can just type in for, let's say, Chinese, and that brings me Panda Express. So if I were looking for, let's say, a plumber, I could do that as well, and that will bring me to 2 plumbers. So again, we are searching on all the fields, again, out of the box without doing any code yet. Just a couple clicks, and we got all that hooked up. All right, let's go back here and let's see what else do we have. So we looked at the editing part of it. Let's look at the content filtering and sorting part of it. So this is relatively important here because the visualizer basically takes the data from the back source and presents it to the user. Well, nowhere have we told the visualizer what data it has access to, other than the fact we said the visualizer has access to the business data. But what if I wanted to limit that? What if I wanted to say you only have access to certain business data, not everything? That's where the filtering and sorting comes in. And to put this into perspective, let's go to Yelp.com really quick. And let's say I wanted to build this right here, how to new businesses. I just want to show new businesses, and I want to limit them to just 3 of them. Not, I don't have any pagination or something. So that's where this becomes super powerful. So I can display all the content, all the businesses, or I can say, let's limit this content to only 3 businesses. And then I can say, sort by their last updated date. Now this is showing me the latest 3 new businesses, or I can do the first or oldest 3 new businesses. There you go. And so forth. Now, if I were to just update this really quick and go back here and refresh, now we're down to those 3 businesses only. Now there's nothing stopping me from creating as many visualizers as I need. So I could have 10 visualizers on the home page showing just the things I want, and there could be a separate page with all the business directory. So super important to understand that. Now we can slice and dice this data any way we want. Again, we can filter by authors. I can even filter it with the user who's actively signed in. So this is very important because I want to have a dedicated my account page or my dashboard page where when a user logs in, they only see their properties. So then they can go ahead and edit. They don't have to choose from a sea of different businesses, right? They go to their my account and they only see their properties, and they can either edit it or add or update from there. And so it's pretty cool because there's a lot of flexibility here. I mean, I can go down to date range between dates. I can say, show me new businesses within the last 3 days. And I did all this data yesterday, so it's all going to there. So a lot of flexibility here, right? With the dates, with content. Now, sometimes you have to hand pick, right? Let's say there's a business requirement. You're showcasing just 3 businesses and they're just random, no sorting order. Well, you could then go ahead and say display selected content, and I can get this to all date. And then you can hand pick it. Like I want this one, and I want this one, and I want this one. And you see these are hand picked, and only these 3 data points will be passed to your visualizer, and you can show that. So extremely powerful. Again, let's go back to display all content. Now, what about filtering? What if I wanted a section that only shows Chinese restaurants, right? Or what if I just want a section that just says restaurants? Well, you have full filter control here. So we're going to create a group right here. We're going to say if the category is equal to restaurants. So now I'm looking at all the restaurants. So those are all the restaurants. Now, what if I wanted to do only Chinese restaurants? So I can add a new condition. I can say, and the cuisine must be equal to Chinese. And right now it's saying if any of these rules are matched, which means or, I'm going to do all rules are matched, which is an and. So this way now I'm only looking at Chinese, which apparently I don't see any. Maybe I don't have my data correctly, but let's look at just Chinese. And there's the Panda Express. So there's something going on there with the data. So again, similarly, if I wanted to bring just plumbers, I can go ahead and do that as well. And this will bring just plumbers. Question. So question came in from a user. So you have to pre-filter. All users can filter. No, absolutely. There's client-side filtering, which I'll get to in a few minutes. You could take all data and pass it to the client, and they can filter themselves. But sometimes on certain pages, let's say you have a dedicated page that is just showing plumbers, right? So I'm just showing how you can build that by pre-filtering, so they don't have access to the whole thing. And then you can pre-filter behind the scenes to just plumbers. That's what we're looking at right now. There's another question. To show more than one visualizer on the same page, do you just drop the module on the page multiple times and select the active visualizer for each one? Absolutely. Yeah, you just drop multiple live visualizers on the page, and then you simply choose a different one. And I'm just going to create a test one here really quick to demonstrate that. And then you can switch between which visualizer you want to show just by toggling the active on it. So that's that. All right, let's go back here. Let me see if there's anything else we need to look. We can go this back to display all content. We don't need any filtering. So there's filtering, and there's some more lines that we're going to cover. All right, I guess we're going to go ahead and take this one level up and actually build the app out, because so far we just got the business. There's nothing else. Let's go ahead and go to structures. And how we're doing on time, we have about 25 more minutes, 20 more minutes. So let's go ahead and get through this. What I'm going to do is create a new structure. I want users to be able to review and rate these businesses. I mean, that's the whole point of a site like Yelp. So let's go ahead and create a business review. And let's add that in. Again, for permissions, I'm going to say registered users can add and update their reviews, but only those who actually own their data, not other users. And let's grab a rating, call it rating. Let's grab a text area, let's call it review. Make that required, make it a little bit bigger. And I'll just leave this as it is, kind of simple structure that just has a rating and a review. Now, notice I call this structure business review. There's no association with the business yet. So let's go ahead and do that. And that's some of the new features that are in Live Visualizer. I'm going to add a single reference here and bring it up here. We'll change the label to, let's say, reference business. Basically, I want to know this rating and review belongs to which business. So in the top here, I'm going to choose a structure. I'm going to say this is actually a business reference, and it is required. So let's go ahead and, so I just created that structure, and let's go ahead and go to content library and quickly just add something to it. So if you notice here, it brings all the businesses in. So that's pretty cool. Now, if you notice here, it comes in random order. There's no reasoning to it how that's appearing. So let's go back to our structure and go down here. We have what we call a filter here. So the same filter that I've been showing, I can pre-filter this to show specific data. I can sort it in a certain way. So in my case, I want to sort this by name. I want to sort this alphabetically, so it makes a lot more sense. So let's go ahead and do that. And then I can also decide what do I want in that dropdown to show, the name of the business or some other property. So I can do that. Name is fine. And I can have a pre-selected one too, the default one. But anyways, let's continue here and go back here, add a business review. Now see that's alphabetical. I'm just going to go to KFC, give it a review and just say test review. Notice I have to choose KFC here. So by doing this, I have now associated that review with KFC. Now that is all great, but how do we kind of glue this all together so my end user doesn't have to choose which business they're giving a review to? So let's go ahead and kind of take a look at that, how we do that. Let's go back to our visualizer and let's edit it. And we're going to go back to our structure, which is business, but I'm going to go to its relationships. And I'm going to say, now there's a relationship going on. This business has a relationship with reviews. And it's a multiple reference. A business can have multiple reviews. So there's a multiple reference. I'm going to give it a model name. I'm going to call it reviews. And go ahead and update. We have a question that says, can the reference be pre-filled? So some kind of query string. Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly where I'm heading. So let's go ahead and update this and hit OK. And again, auto generate is beautiful. I'm going to hit auto generate again and take a look at what happened behind the screens really quick. So if I look at a property now, auto generate automatically shows me now its reviews. Because I've already said there's a reference, it will bring in all reviews for that property and automatically show this to me. And I can now quickly add a review. Well, this is great, but the problem isn't solved, the fact that I have to choose a business. Well, the auto-generate template already passed in the business reference to that review structure. We just have to look it up. And I can simply do that by going to the default value here and saying URL structure. This is a query parameter that the visualizer is parsing, basically is passing the business on automatically for me. So if I have set this up correctly, then if we just go back here, make life easier. If I hit add, I should get the reference business, which I did not. So let's see. What did I do wrong? Let's go back here really quick to our business review. Oh, didn't get saved for some reason. I didn't hit OK. Let's try one more time. URL. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, somebody from the chat is saying I didn't save it. Perfect. Structure and hit OK. So it's autosave. I just didn't hit OK. Not having hit OK, that would have taken the value. Let's go back here and hit add. And perfect. You see the Q Sharp moving services, which the business I was passed in. Now, I don't want the end user to even see that, right? There's no need for them to see that. So let's go back to our business. We're going to hide that field. It never needs to be visible out there. All right, perfect. So now if I go back here, and if I want to leave a review on Domino's, I simply go hit add, give it a rating. Pizza is great. That's debatable, but let's see. Oops, we got an error. No fun if you don't have an error in a live demo. Okay, something going on there. Versus this one, I don't know if we add. Let's try this one as well. Okay, error here as well. All right, let's try to do auto generate. Let's see if that solves. Otherwise, we'll go to plan B. Okay, let's see if that helped. That did not help. So that's an issue. We should have seen a review here at this point, but there's definitely something's going wrong. But anyways, let's continue. I have one of the leads who is watching this webinar trying to come up with an answer what's going on, and until he can help, let's continue what we're doing. So as the visualizer, you could have multiple relationships. So I could have the business reviews, I could have business photos, I can have many other things going on in the thing. So one of the things, let's go down here. One of the things I wanted to do in the business review, and let's get rid of the 2 reviews that we have, so at least we don't have a error. Let's go back here to our structure. I do want to be able to give the user the ability to add photos. So let's add a file upload. Let's call it photos. Allow them to upload multiple, and let's require this as well. So when I do create a review, I can, just like Yelp, add a bunch of photos to it, right? So let's go back here. And one of the things I've been told is we should specify a title and description field on the business review, so the templates know how to auto-generate them. So let's go ahead and do that. We can give it a rating and maybe a review. Let's see if that makes a difference. All right. Having done all this, let's go back and try and add a review. And let's upload some photos here too. And have some sample house pictures, but it works. All right. So that was it. Thanks, Naren. Naren was in offline helping me here. He basically said that error was because in the structures we didn't have the title and the description set. And that's something I guess we can validate and enforce, but at least we have that figured out. All right. So now that when I click on Domino's, I see the review and I see a no image here, which is fine because we'll go ahead and work on the template. But now I'm able to create relationships again, absolutely without any coding. I have reviews that are showing up for Domino's under Domino's. And if I click on something else, I have no reviews coming up. So that's great. Let's go ahead and talk about, I have 10 minutes here, so I want to kind of get through this really quickly. We looked at relationships, how easy it is to add relationships and, pass the references along. You could very easily in your structures add a, for example, here there was a single reference. You could very easily add a multiple reference for whatever reason. I'm just doing this a demo so we understand where it's somewhere to go there, and I didn't choose the structure on it. So let's go here. Let's call this maybe business. And that means somebody can add multiples or select multiple businesses. They're not limited to just one. And again, not for the review, for business review, but just in general, if you're building a structure that needed multiple. So here, now it lets me do Domino's, but then it lets me add Pizza Hut, and it lets me add other businesses. Again, all the filtering, pre-filtering that is still in place. So super easy to now build your structures by referencing other structures, and relationships and visualizer automatically glues everything for you. So let's get rid of this, and we're going to go back and look at what one of the users asked is, how do you do client filtering? So if we go to Yelp, right, I can go ahead and click on plumbers, and then I see all the plumbers and restaurants and so forth. So how do I do that here? Right now, I don't see a way to do that. So, I mean, we can search, that's there. I mean, I can search for movers and I only should see movers, but what if I wanted to do actual filtering? Well, it turns out that's pretty easy. To do actual filtering is we can use a cheat which is built into Visualizer, so we don't have to come up with our own query parameters. You can do filtering with query parameters, but let's go down here. And let's say I just wanted to show all the Chinese restaurants, right? So if I were to go to cuisine and go to Chinese, I see there's just Panda Express. Now, in the settings here, we have this sheet link called filter link. If I were to click on it, this gives me a URL with a query parameter that is not only bringing Chinese, but also setting the correct sort order and everything else that you see right here on the top. So it's a complete filter. Now, I could take these and obviously build a navigation for each one, but that would be painful. Or I could take this and I can understand that there's just one variable that changed here. So if I change that Chinese to American, then it brings American food. If I change that to something else, donuts, then it's bringing my donuts. So that is a better proposition than individually building. I could have the same link and just swap out donuts. Now, there is an AJAX way or asynchronous way of doing this too. We don't necessarily have to have links that takes them to a new page, because when I look at Yelp, if I click on something, it really is not taking my page, it just updates the app. So within Live Visualizer, you have some helper methods, and this is called LV AJAX, and 381 basically stands for the module ID of the module that you're working on. And this module ID, let's see if we have a way of getting to it. It's right here, 381. So I can simply call that method, pass in that filter URL, and you will notice that it automatically updates my view with that filtering. So that is super cool, because now I can build a navigation. And again, that markup is in my control. I can go ahead and build whatever I want. Create a simple JavaScript function that takes what the user clicked on and passes it in to this filter URL, and that updates the UI. So let's go ahead and do that. What I'm going to do is I already have some of the templates created to save us time. So let's go ahead and edit this. And I'm going to go to scripts and kind of paste the script in. This is a simple script. I'm just doing jQuery. When the document's ready, I'm going to create a menu where user can, see his filter. So I'm just saying when somebody clicks on any of the menu item, we're doing some logging, don't need to do that. I'm saying if it's a restaurant, and again, this is just something I threw in quickly, not the best way of doing it, but just to do two different scenarios. If it's a restaurant, here's my filter link. And if it's anything else, then we're filtering. Basically, if it's anything else, we're filtering on the category. And if it's a restaurant, I'm filtering on the cuisine. So that's all I'm doing here. I'm gonna take some style sheet, so make it look a little bit pretty. Let's put it in line there. I do have some template changes. So I'm gonna go to my master, put in a new template. And then in my detail, I also have a new template. And if all goes well, we should see the magic. All right, so what I did by updating the template is basically I created this menu on the top. Again, if you inspect this, nothing, a simple URL I created and hard-coded some of the categories right now. I could have very easily pulled those categories from structure too. We could have created a different structure as a category, and we could have used that and pulled it in. But I just hard-coded this, and then on its click event, I just have that LV AJAX method being called. So if I click Chinese, see, it just filters right there. Super easy. All right. Couple questions in the chat. Will there be short videos or cheat sheet with all these tricks? There are a bunch of videos on Live Visualizer already. This webinar is also being recorded and it will be available. there's another question, can this be exported and imported for us to play around? Absolutely. So this visualizer, once we're done here, we're going to export it out and post it along with the webinar so you can import it in and play around with it. And I'll show you exactly in a minute how to do that. Super easy. So we got our client-side filtering. I don't know what that Indian is. Doesn't belong there. So here I am filtering on the actual category, and here I'm filtering on a subcategory of restaurant, which is the cuisine. So that's filtering. The search still works. I can search for KFC, it brings in. So we've covered the user search, filtering, the relationships, and the whole 9 yards that I wanted to accomplish. And thanks, Noreen. Again, I for a moment there with that error, I was like, it's not going to work clear. But we haven't demonstrated the reviews. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's go back to Domino's. And notice, because we have improved templates, well, the only thing we changed here was this. But if you click on it, we changed the detail template. So it's not just just random data. There's a logo and, nice thing. And here we got review going on. If notice, there's my 4-star review that I left earlier. And there's the 2 images. And I can go ahead and leave another review here. And I can add another 2 images here and updated it. And notice the reviews are collected at the level of, the images are connected at the level of review. But then what we did is we had another section called all photos. We simply got all the photos out of reviews and showed them here, precisely what Yelp does. So if you go to Yelp and if you go to a particular business, then once you go here, you see their photos. It says see 88 photos, and all these photos are nothing but collected through review. So we were able to kind of quickly demonstrate a simpler concept that there's the pictures left by the user, but then we have them all here as a separate section. Just quickly, I could show that. And we'll wrap this up. And if you look right here, these are our reviews. And then in a separate section on the right, we just looped back on the reviews, but this time we only aggregated all the pictures and we put them down here. All right, that's it for this video. We've done a lot in 55 minutes, and we have I would say far more than an MVP. It's a fully functional app. We can user filtering, we can search, we can add, we've covered the CRUD, we can create, read, update, delete. There's a lot more goodies along there. If you are creating a mobile application, then you automatically get API built in. There's an API link that gives you all the data into JSON with all the filtering and pre-filtering just by drag and drop. Again, this has been covered in a previous video. So you could literally use this to start, plugging in IoTs or, other devices other than web, like mobile apps and so forth. And this can serve as your headless CMS or just a structured content solution. I'll be happy to take any questions at this time. If you would like to unmute yourself and ask them, feel free to do that. Well, thank you everyone for joining. It was a pleasure doing this presentation.